absolute experts in it. I've been with Classy about 6 years. I've done a wide range of things from customer service to working with our clients to working with partners, and really gotten to see just tons and tons of fundraising campaigns over the years, and have seen a ton about what works and what doesn't, and again, very, very excited about recurring donations and excited about the presentation that we have today. So Matt, do you want to say a few words about yourself as well?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. My name is Matt Scott, and I'm the co-founder of Upraise Consulting. We help nonprofits leverage technology and human behavior to raise awareness and money online. And I helped create and work to develop the recurring revenue program at Team Rubicon, which is the case study that we're going to be going over during my section, as well as helping a few other nonprofits develop a robust recurring revenue program. So like these two, I'm excited to kind of talk to you and share some tips and secrets on how to get started in a really simple, clean way.
All right, so today's agenda, first we're going to dig right in and give you an overview of recurring donations, what those are, and then dig in next to how to launch a successful recurring donations campaign with your organization. And then we're just going to give you some really concrete tips on how you can build your program and make the most of some of this strategy and CRM integrations that we're talking about. And then finally, we'll have lots of time for recap and questions at the end.
Excellent. Thanks, Kirsten. Well, for my part, I just want to kick things off with really just an overview of what recurring donations are and how they go to work for your organization. And at the end of the day, why I'm such a huge fan of them. So I really just want to set the stage for what Matt will be speaking about in terms of the more tactical, strategic approach as well. And then, as Kirsten mentioned, plenty of time for questions at the end. So make sure you ask anything that is on your mind. So without further ado, my other title for this presentation is Why You Need a Recurring Donations Program and Why You Need One Now. This will be a theme throughout. I hope it sinks in by the end because it's super, super important. And this is really the reason why. Donor attrition is an epidemic in the nonprofit space. It's typically that when somebody gives to an organization, the following year, 60 to 75%, depending on the org, do not give again the following year. This is based on a study that was done by a company called Bloomerang, but has been validated by hundreds of our customers over the years, and is really a very well agreed upon industry standard. So basically what this means is somebody gives one time, usually through emotional reasons. They see a video where they're asked by a friend to give, and then the following year they don't give to the same organization. And here are basically the reasons why. They can't afford it. They thought other orgs were more deserving. They receive poor communication. Sometimes they die or something happens in their lives that prevents them from giving. They're never thanked. They don't remember, all these things. But the real takeaway here is that most of these reasons are totally preventable. They really come down to communication and regular engagement. In fact, according to this study, 89% of all donor attrition is completely preventable by simple methods, just reminding them, thanking them, engaging with them steadily over time, which is something that a recurring donations program is uniquely positioned to do. The other nice little stat that is really, really important is that it typically costs about 10 times more to an organization to gain a new donor than to keep an existing one. So Matt's going to talk a little bit about some key metrics towards the end, but the cost of acquiring a donor is something extremely important, and recurring donations mitigate that to a tremendous degree. So we talked about how 60 to 75% is like the attrition level. That means you're really only keeping 35% of one-time donors year over year. By contrast, just by shifting that ask to a recurring monthly gift, you're actually going to start retaining 70% of those donors. And this, again, is something that is the product of that Bloomerang study, but has been validated by numerous customers over time. So what does this do for you? Why is this important? Well, predictable revenue growth is an amazing thing to have at the organization. You can plan your programs, you can make hiring decisions, you can do long-term planning, really be sustainable, and you get away from that sort of feast or famine mentality that can be limiting to your overall growth and ability to impact the mission. So can we really change all this just by changing the ask? Absolutely we can, and I'm about to prove it to you right now. So I'm going to throw up a couple different scenarios. There's going to be a lot of numbers in here, but please, if you're not math-oriented, don't get overwhelmed. They're actually fairly straightforward, but basically these are the three scenarios. Random fundraising campaign number 1, where you're making the ask for one-time gifts. So that can be your holiday fundraising campaign, can be a run-walk event, whatever it is. A fundraising campaign where you're asking for recurring gifts instead is scenario number 2. And then scenario number 3 is actually if you go ahead and build on that campaign. And we just came up with some nice round numbers to make it easy. So for scenario 1, you're doing a one-time donation campaign. We'll call it a holiday fundraising campaign since that's pretty timely. And you're going to engage 5,000 donors. They're going to give, on average, $240 for their gift, which is a pretty reasonable amount. We're going to assume that of the people that stick around year over year, that they're going to increase their gift 10% year over year, and that you're going to be able to retain about 45%. That's above industry norms, but we'll assume that everybody on the call is really, really good at donor engagement and donor retention, so we'll give you an extra 10% here and just assume 45% retention year over year. And we're also going to assume that there's no new donor acquisition from year to year as well. So this is a one-time campaign. That's it. You're done. That's what it is. So here's what this looks like. Over time, the first year you can see you have 5,000 donors, $240 each, and you've raised, in this scenario, $1.2 million. But what you see is those donors drop off really, really quickly. So that at the end of the 10 years from that initial pool, you only have 4 donors left. And that year you bring in $2,000. So the sum total of the 10-year fundraising for that one campaign, the 10-year value is $2.37 million, which is nice, but we can do better. Here's scenario number 2. So the same 5,000 donors, we haven't changed anything. We haven't even changed the amount of the gift. Just instead of asking for the $240 lump sum, we're asking for $20 a month, which is just that single gift broken out divided by 12. So one gift a month. At the end of the year, you get the same amount of money. We're going to assume still that the ones that you retain year over year will increase their gift 10%. And we're going to assume that you are able to retain 70% of those donors from year to year, which, again, is that industry standard. And we're also going to assume that this is a one-time recurring donation campaign. That's what the ask is. You never do anything else with it. Well, what you see is you actually nearly double your 10-year value. So you get the exact same amount year 1, but from year to year, you really retain many, many more donors and raise much more money in the end. So 202 donors is a way better number to be left with than 4, as in the previous example, not only because they're continuing to give, but because you can use those folks for volunteering, for advocacy, for any number of things that you do at your organization outside of just money fundraising. So here's scenario number 3, and this is my personal favorite. Again, those 5,000 donors, the same $20 monthly donation, same annual growth, same retention rate, but we're also going to assume that you have just overall you net 20% new donor acquisition. So you're going to lose some people through the natural attrition that occurs, but you're also going to be doing a recurring donations campaign year over year. You're going to be reaching out throughout the year to say thank you, talk about impact, update credit cards, ask them to increase their gifts steadily, different things like that. That's just normal maintenance for a program like this. So overall, even with the loss, you're going to net 20% growth, which I think is pretty reasonable. It changes the numbers dramatically. So at the end of the 10-year period, you have, instead of 4 donors or instead of 202 donors, you have 25,000 donors in your network. And the 10-year value of this is $56 million. Now, granted, these are hypothetical numbers. You're going to have a different starting place, most likely, than the exact figures that I came up with, but the benefits are pretty staggering. The other nice thing about this, even if you end up deciding this is not something that you want to do at your organization longer term, even if you would consider it a failure or you don't have the resources to commit to it long term, you still come out ahead because you actually pass the entire fundraising from the first scenario in year 2. So remember, in the first scenario, you netted just over $2 million. You're going to pass that within the second year of doing a program like this. So just to give the side-by-side comparison, it's pretty obvious the results are clear, the overall benefits to the organization. This is also something that can seem daunting. Matt's going to run through a lot of different things that you can do to really make this program amazing, but it doesn't have to be. You can really start very simply, start with your board, start with your staff, just begin with a small inner circle and let it grow from there. We also have some different comps. This is purely example number 3, so this is having that program in place. But the smaller organizations out there may be saying, we can't reach 5,000 donors, which is totally fine. Even if you can reach 100 donors, which is, say you have 5 board members, you have 5 volunteers, get them through peer-to-peer fundraising or otherwise, get them to reach out to their network. And if they can bring in 10 people each, just to commit to a small $20 monthly gift, after 10 years, that initial effort is worth over $1 million to your organization. So pretty staggering. It's definitely something that all organizations should do and do quickly. Again, the quick summary, recurring donations over time really helps you grow steadily. You get away from that feast or famine fundraising, which makes it really, really hard to do strategic planning and have continuity of programs. You get this steady growth instead, which has the opposite effect, and you can do quite a bit. It's also less burdensome for staff, so you're not constantly chasing new donors. You're just engaging with the ones you have and then doing a campaign year over year, just to kind of give it a little booster shot, so to speak. And then, as you engage throughout the year, it should really be a friendly thing. It should be calling them up, thanking them, involving them, treating them as investors and stakeholders and important community members, and just asking if you can update their information and increase their gift, because you can do this extra thing with an increased amount. Some free unsolicited advice. It's okay to focus on a low initial ask. I think the average on Classy at the moment is $50 a month is our average monthly gift currently, but it's okay to go below that. The entry point of $5 or $10 is totally reasonable. Again, treat them like investors. Be transparent and accountable to them. It's great to send quarterly reports or monthly or annual reports, I should say. You're focusing on building the relationship much more than you would with a single-time ask. And even more, this is something that is absolutely crucial to your success as an organization. Start today. If you can reach 5,000 donors or 10,000 donors, fantastic. But if you can only reach 50 or 100, this will still pay massive, massive dividends. So that's basically it. No need to focus too much on the exact numbers that we laid out, but hopefully the takeaways are clear. And with that, I will turn things back over to my friend and colleague, Matt Scott, to talk about the actual strategies that you're going to use to launch and maintain a campaign like this.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I'm going to dive right into the strategies. Mike talked about the what, and I'm going to try and do my best to outline the how. So we're going to use Team Rubicon as a case study, which is a client who is using Classy, also worked with Idealist Consulting to configure Salesforce and grow the program year over year. But the initial start was simply using Excel spreadsheets in Classy. So it kind of shows how you can build this program year over year into a really robust recurring revenue, sustainable revenue stream that you can count on. So I'm going to go over first over 1111. 1111 is Team Rubicon's campaign aimed around Veterans Day at increasing the total number of recurring donors, people who are giving on a monthly basis. And I think that that's one of the key elements of success, to find your organization's day, whatever that day may be, and build a campaign specifically targeting recurring revenue. Similar to what Mike said, it's as simple as asking sometimes. We run a lot of case studies, A/B testing for nonprofits, and see that when you ask for a recurring donation, it really does have an impact on people's giving habits. So at Team Rubicon, they have the support squad, which is their group of people who give on a monthly basis. It's important to establish a relationship with these folks and to make them feel special. So the elements of this case study are planning, having this Salesforce CRM system, which allows you to really engage with each supporter and keep track of what it is that they're doing. Custom graphics and content that is delivered to your supporters, making your ask unique to them so that you're really drawing out why it is that they're giving to your organization. We like to talk about the 60-10-40 rule. 60% of it is in planning, just 10% is in actually executing the campaign, and 40% is in program management. And it's not that we don't know how to do math. It takes 110% to get success out of this program. But I think a lot of times organizations focus on the execution and they don't spend a lot of time on the planning or on the engagement, which are the two most important elements to a successful recurring revenue program. Again, I mentioned that the use of Salesforce is really helpful because that allows you to manage your relationships with your supporters. And Team Rubicon did use Idealist to help configure their Salesforce instance. But again, it's not absolutely critical to get started. It's a great way to grow the program year over year. So creating custom graphics for your campaign. It's awesome if you can tie impact directly to the donor's gift. So quantifying each and every monthly gift so that you have $5 provides a certain thing in the field compared to $10 or $25, and breaking that down for different giving levels and making it easily digestible for your supporters is going to help drive success on your campaign. It's also awesome to be transparent and show progress. People really like to be a part of a bigger goal, and so it's great to break down your goal into smaller daily goals in your campaign. So if you have a 2-week campaign, a great idea is to have a daily goal with a matching challenge. In this case, there was a goal of adding 100 new donors to reach a $5,000 matching challenge. And I'll show you the impact that that had compared to other days in the campaign. So what are all the elements? You really want to, once you've taken the time to plan out all the custom graphics and specific ask, then you want to go ahead and market those to your supporters. And you're going to send the ask out through social media, emails, maybe you can phone call people and do some street canvassing. In total, at Team Rubicon, they added 68% more recurring donors in just 11 days during that campaign. That equated to 320 new recurring donors. If we break it down by day, we see that on the 7th, they actually added over 80 donors compared to all the other days during the campaign. The reason being is that was the day that they had the $5,000 matching challenge. So it's really important to show that level of transparency to your supporters. You're giving them a direct reason to donate, and you can let them know that even $5 provides something related to your work, and that someone's going to match that $5 is a really great way to get people motivated. If we look at it versus the year prior, you can see that overall the program grew. This is the number of donors that gave each day compared to 2012 with 2013. And they're currently running their 2014 11/11 campaign. And it's really cool website. If you check out give.teamrubiconusa.org, you're going to see all the elements that help make a successful campaign. So in total, they added $6,100 in new monthly recurring revenue. And as Mike pointed out, the retention rate is significantly higher on recurring supporters. In Team Rubicon's case, 98% of those people who joined last November are still giving monthly. So they went from 8,600 to nearly 15,000 in new monthly recurring revenue. It is possible that you're going to take in some one-time gifts with the recurring revenue, but some of the ways that you can really help augment that is by having it default to monthly, having all of your messaging be around monthly. But it's important not to eliminate the one-time gifts during this campaign. Some people are just not going to give on a recurring basis, and this is $26,000 that they wouldn't have captured had they only chosen to do a monthly donation. In total, the year one amounted to $95,000 in return on investment. So if we look at the chart that Mike had put together before, you see that a 10-year is equivalent to $8.9 million in recurring revenue, which is pretty amazing compared to just one-time gifts. So how do you replicate the success of Team Rubicon's 11/11 campaign to really develop and grow your own program? Well, the first thing is to focus on relationships. It's all about the relationship with the supporters, and it's important to connect with them in a way that is uniquely meaningful to them. You want to create access, whether it's from a one-time campaign or a presence on your website from a year-round perspective. regardless, you want to make access incredibly simple. And a lot of our clients use Classy for that, which is a really powerful platform that allows them to raise money in an easy, succinct way. And then engage. You want to really engage your supporters and keep track of what is important to them. And again, a lot of our clients use Salesforce for that, and Idealist helps configure that, which is incredible because the combination of all of these elements create a year-over-year growth program. So focusing on this relationship, it's actually incredibly simple. You think about what it is, why it is that an organization is, an individual is donating to your organization, and you try and meet them there. So sometimes it's easy to let all the technology and bells and whistles get in the way of the simple human element of things. It's critical that you remember why it is that people are giving to your organization and try and make that connection with them. Again, on making that ask, it's important that you be very specific. You break down exactly what contributions are going to equate to, and then you follow up with a level of engagement that relates to it. So in this case, a supporter gave $5, which provided personal protective equipment for the volunteer who was deploying to Tacloban after Typhoon Han, and they actually got a postcard of the picture of the person that they provided personal protective equipment for. So it's critical that you show that impact throughout the year and you build a relationship so that the chances of them increasing their donation or maintaining their donation is higher. Again, making sure that you have a specific year-round presence on your website as well as a targeted campaign. I really encourage a campaign that is specifically going towards recurring revenue. It's a great way to kick off your recurring revenue program and then have that year-round presence. And do your best to A/B test them. See which one brings in more results, and if you change around the format of your website where you're asking and focusing on recurring revenue as opposed to one-time gifts, it's really awesome to see how much that increases your total monthly recurring revenue. I already went over this quantifying the ask. Access and transparency, and so this is an example of Team Rubicon's website where this is outside of the regular campaign, but they have an opportunity to invest monthly in Team Rubicon. And at TR, they really focus on the investment side of things. You're really investing in the organization's viability and ability to respond to disasters. And so they actually have quarterly newsletters that they send out to their support squad members, which is like an investor. They also have hangouts twice a year where people can ask questions of the co-founders. And everything is focused on, these were the goals that we had this quarter, these were the metrics, and this is what was delivered. So NPR model is, they've been doing something right for a long time. And I live in Portland, Oregon, and in Portland, Oregon Public Broadcasting has the Sustaining Circle. And so this is that support squad, Sustaining Circle, whatever it is, it's important to create a program and a subgroup of supporters to make them feel special. And whether they're giving $5, $10, or $100, with the help of technology, you can really engage each and every one of those people and make them feel uniquely special to your organization. At Team Rubicon, they also send out handwritten thank you cards to people, and they send gear and newsletters, and then online they're constantly sending emails and social media updates from work in the field. It's important to have a delicate balance between too much engagement and not enough engagement, but the important aspect here is that you actually do keep that human aspect. So you can see that the personal thank you card to Jessica really struck home for her, and it meant a lot to her that she received awareness of where her money was going and the impact it had. I will say Jessica is still actually a donor, which is awesome. So managing your recurring revenue program, this is that final step. Once you've planned out your campaign, you've created all the custom elements, you've developed it, you put together a targeted campaign, and you've executed that campaign, you've thanked your supporters for that gift, and you've created a year-round presence on your website. How do you manage the program so that you're minimizing the churn and you're increasing the total lifetime value of each supporter and growing on the program year over year? So a little bit of understanding of what the donor churn is. This is your total number of lost donors divided by the total donors. And as Mike pointed out, on average, 70% of recurring donors continue into year 2. As I mentioned at Team Rubicon, that number is closer in the 95 to 98%. And I think that has a lot to do with the kind of engagement that they provide to their supporters. The number one reason why people lose recurring donors is through a lack of keeping up with their recurring payments, so credit cards that expire. It's really important to stay on top of that thing, on expiring credit cards, but it's also a great opportunity to reach out to that supporter and see if they'd be interested in increasing their monthly gift, or ask them questions about why they're supporting your organization and how they feel their donation is having an impact on your organization's work. It's a great opportunity to capture that information and increase their gift. So I already went over these. These are the leading causes for donor churn, but outdated payment information is number one. The lack of engagement is critical. You know, you really want to help make these people feel special, and then you're sending them too much stuff. So it's important to segment out your recurring donors from your general appeals. A lot of times people think, well, these are the people who are already giving the most, so they're clearly tied to our organization. We should send them a direct appeal. All the organizations that I've ever worked with, the data has shown that it's critical that you don't ask too much of those people, but instead tailor that extra ask towards your recurring revenue campaign. So if you have a year-over-year programmatic growth, during that campaign you can actually reach out to them and ask for an additional support. But it's important that you don't just constantly ask the same people over and over. This is that personalized engagement that I went over. Here's an example of a postcard that went out to the support squad members from Team Rubicon, and it talks about the work that Jody has experienced, the experience she had in the field responding to a disaster and how that impacted them. So however it is for your supporters, it's important to get the word out, whether it's direct mail, a newsletter, occasionally making phone calls. All of those things are important ways of engaging your supporters. At Team Rubicon, they use Salesforce to track all the payment information and update contact records. And so, again, this is a use of technology that can help you manage your program. How much is too much? And this is a breakdown of how often nonprofits send out emails to their supporters in 2013. And you can see that the majority send out something monthly. I think that it's important with your recurring donors to have a program in mind and tailor those specific asks based on what the levels of engagement around what the person actually wants. And you can capture that information on a phone call or through a survey. You just want to customize the frequency to meet that recipient's preferences. So what I mean by that is when you're on the phone with them or you send out a survey and you ask them, how often would you like to be engaged? You'd be surprised at how many people respond to those. I know that they just sent out for this year's 11/11 campaign, the existing support squad members had a 78% open rate on their emails. So it's significantly higher than others, and it's important to make that ask so that we can tailor the type of communication around what they want. So how do you increase that total lifetime value of the donor? And you do this by increasing their monthly donation year over year. And the best way to do this is to show impact over and over again and to continuously message and tailor your impact graphics around that supporter's needs and interest. So the average donation per donor divided by your donor churn rate is your total lifetime value. So how do you bring down the number of donors who are dropping off, and how do you increase the average donation? You do that through robust engagement and accountability to your supporters. As I've mentioned a few times already, it's all about quantifying their gift through engagement and updating payment information. When you call to update payment information, it's important to ask them how they feel things are going, and if things look very promising, then it's totally appropriate to ask if they'd be interested in increasing their donation. Or if they have an employer matching program, it's a great opportunity to ask them if they'd be willing to put in a submission to have their donation matched by their employer. So managing your recurring revenue program. This is an example of 2012 versus 2013 data for Team Rubicon. And you can see that the program, which started out really small, like Mike had pointed out in 2012, grew exponentially in 2013. And I happen to know that they're in the middle of the 1111 campaign right now that we're helping manage. And the numbers are pretty impressive in the 2014. So I encourage you to go over to give.teamrubiconusa.org and check out and see exactly what they're doing. It's pretty impressive. So year-over-year growth really depends on establishing the program's brand. In this case, Team Rubicon does 11/11, which is all around Veterans Day. But pick the dates that's important to your organization and build a program's brand around that campaign. So just to recap the 7 tips for launching and managing your successful recurring revenue program, and keeping in mind that most everything is tied up in planning. Execution is just 10%, and 40% of it is in program management. During that strategy sessions, when you're really thinking about it, define your goals and your key metrics. Understand the number of donors you have and what their average gift is, what's your current retention rate, and how often can you upgrade those supporters. Once you have all that information, you can really develop a real strategy around how you're going to reach out to those supporters. Launch that targeted campaign. As Mike said, it's really not that complicated. It's as simple as setting up a campaign, quantifying your gift, reaching out to your supporters, and making that monthly ask. But make sure that you follow up with them after, right? Engagement is the name of the game for this. You've got to make them feel special throughout the year and make sure and tie their gift to the work that you're doing. It is a team effort. It does take 110% from your board to your volunteers to everybody involved. It's important that you get everybody out there pushing that campaign, especially during the 7 to 14 days that you're running one. Some organizations go all the way up to 30 days on campaigns. Beyond that, I haven't seen a lot of success in 60-day campaigns or more. And finally, measure, learn, and repeat the things that were successful. So looking at that data, and that's something where Salesforce can really help, is you can look into and see what was successful and what wasn't. It's not critical that you have it, but it certainly helps you grow the program year over year. I'm going to turn it back over to Mike now.
Yeah, Matt, thank you. That was great. Matt and I have done presentations like this 8 or 10 times in the past year, and recurring donations for both of us is a favorite topic. It seems to be what we do at conferences and things like that. When we were initially brainstorming and getting these ideas together, we talked a lot about that phone call when you're following up with people, talking about impact, and we were joking around, but we think you really want to get to the point where those calls to donors are like calling a family member. Donor burnout is a huge factor in nonprofits. Staff burnout can be a huge factor. There's a lot of trepidation around making the ask or the continued ask. But if you build the program in this way, and you're really treating your supporters not as ATM machines, but as stakeholders and investors and valued community members, those phone calls should actually become really easy. They're just a natural part of your basically your accountability to them and your management of that relationship, where you're talking about impact, you're talking about what they'd like to see from the organization, you're asking, you're sharing, you're offering opportunities outside of just giving financially. And it's kind of like a call to your mom, where you're going to ask for money. You don't just say, please, can I have your new credit card? Can we double your gift? That kind of thing. You have the rest of it first, and then at the end, if the relationship is strong, upgrading the donation, doubling it to a higher level, should really be a no-brainer. So we are going to open it up to questions in just a second. As Kirsten mentioned, you'll want to enter those into the questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel over there. We'll get to them in short order. While those are coming in, I just kind of want to mention a couple other factors with this. when you're doing your first recurring donations campaign, you really want to tie it to a big event, an auspicious occasion, as we used to call it in the film industry. Team Rubicon ties their 11-11-11 campaign to Veterans Day. That's their big moment. It's probably different at every organization based on your cause and a number of things that might be going on. But if you think about it, you could probably identify a couple times throughout the year when this might be good to do. Holidays are coming up. It makes a great ask for the holidays. You don't want to ask for recurring donations from casual donors or new donors to the organization. So Giving Tuesday also coming up might not be the best opportunity to focus on recurring gifts, but it certainly makes a good follow-up. So end of the year holiday campaigns are a great opportunity to convert new recurring donors. You just want to change the ask a little bit. Or if you're not, if you don't feel like you're ready to do that, they make a great follow-up to those campaigns as well. Where in January and February, you're reaching out again, thanking them, learning more, and just sharing more about the impact and asking if they'd invest along with you and your team in achieving the mission. So just a couple ideas, food for thought. Again, you want to start now if at all possible, no matter what size you're at, what capacity you're at. While reading the questions as well, I just want to mention we are teaming up on a recurring revenue solutions kit, which Kirsten can talk more about.
Yeah, so as you guys have probably figured out by now, we work pretty well together with these guys, with Classy and Upraise Consulting and Team Rubicon by extension. And so we have actually built a kit that you can make the most of all of our expertise and resources to put together a program like this for your organization. And it can be daunting sometimes to work with multiple applications and multiple consultants potentially. So we've done our best to streamline this process in this particular kit. And you'll see on the screen here, these are just some of the features that are included. And basically it includes, the Classy fundraising platform, and then the strategic help by Upraise Consulting, and then the Salesforce implementation help by us at Idealist Consulting. And it covers everything from putting together those recurring donation forms and management tools, white label supporter profiles, which you don't need to know exactly what it is, but it's important, once you get into this sort of organization. And we can do it pretty quickly. So it's about a 4 to 6 week deployment. We have a chunk of time for that at Idealist, putting together the Salesforce pieces, and then throughout that process you'll be advising with Upraise and using the Classy platform. So it also integrates with Salesforce One. That's kind of a given with a lot of what we do now, but it is mobile friendly. And then we've got a proven method behind all of this where we can help you throughout the whole process and integrate training and guidance and support as well. So I think we're going to be following up with some more details on that after the webinar if you're curious, but just wanted to give that really clear, actionable step if you do have some budget for this sort of thing and you're ready to take the next step. This is a really concrete way to do that.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it's a really great package, getting set up quickly. I would definitely recommend looking into it, but more importantly, again, just if you're not doing recurring donations, do them now. Even if it's just an Excel sheet and PayPal or something, like just start somewhere and grow, and it will grow faster than you might expect. So with that, Kirsten, how are we doing on questions?
Yeah, we've got some coming in, and I want to encourage people to keep asking questions as we're going through these as well. We still have about 15 minutes, so we're happy to dig in as much as people like. So we'll just get started with one from Alina, and her question is, one thing my org struggles with is quantifying the gift. We do indirect service, work with local government and NGOs. Any tips for how to quantify our donors' gifts?
Yeah. I can take this one. This is Matt, and it's really important to basically the quantified gifts that are most impactful are the tangible items, right? So I don't know exactly what your organization does, but I often advise clients to say, okay, whether you're providing refugee work for refugees in Western Europe or something, you need to be able to quantify exactly what you're doing. So break down the big programmatic goals or objectives into smaller deliverables, and it's awesome to try and break them into, so for example at Team Rubicon, it's $5 provides personal protective equipment. $10 provides incident command system training. Another one of my clients, Athletes for Cancer, we broke down their camps that they have these cancer survivors go to with $5 provides a meal, $50 provides a flight. So try and find tangible items that are relatable to the common person. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is really detailed, or I'm sorry, really big picture, but instead try and break it down into a really small detail for them.
Great, thanks, Matt. And I'll let Alana jump in if that didn't completely answer, but it sounds like just making those tangible, concrete deliverables as transparent as possible is the first step in that direction. So we'll jump to, okay, great, she says thanks, so I guess that helped. So we'll jump over to a question from Jocelyn now, and this is a really common question about how are recurring donations actually processed, and they're using at her organization PayPal as a payment processor, which makes recurring gifts very difficult. What other options are there?
Yeah, I can take this one. This is Mike. PayPal doesn't necessarily offer that out of the box. I believe to get it through PayPal you need a specific account type called PayPal Pro, which is $30 a month to set up and then another $30 to receive the recurring donations piece. At Classy, we do it actually out of the box, so every Classy account has the recurring donations option. It's billed automatically. We offer some flexibility in terms of payment processors that you can use. Our recommendation is WePay. They don't offer a direct customer-facing service, so you'd have to use it through Classy, but that doesn't necessarily matter. It's just the technical aspects of it. But you would just activate an account like that. If you're using us or a similar service, you manage it through there. And technically, I don't know how in the weeds you want to get on this, but what happens is somebody fills out a donation form as normal. You would select the monthly recurring option on the page, or as Matt mentioned previously, you could default the form to that, or you could actually, at least on Classy, make that the only option on the form if you wanted to. And then what happens is the initial gift is processed. So you get the initial $20 gift or whatever the amount is automatically in real time. And then what happens is it's called a recurring profile gets set up. So basically it's something tied to that individual donor record that just knows it's set to bill the same amount automatically every single month. And it goes in perpetuity on our system. Automatically, again every month. And some additional features to that. We also provide a good number of recurring donation management tools. So that donor can actually log back into the platform if they wish and manage their own gift. So they can reprint their old receipts, they can update their credit card information, they can cancel if they want to, they can upgrade the amount of the gift without having to go through the entire donation process again. And you actually have that same ability on the back end. And whether you're using Salesforce or you're using Classy directly, in your reports, you would just find the donation record, you would click Manage, and from there you can just update that information yourself and change the gift amount while you're on the phone with that donor without them having to do anything else at all. So I think what you're seeing is just a limitation of the PayPal that you have set up, but if you are ready to make the upgrade to a higher level platform, it's a very easy and seamless process for all involved.
Great, thanks, Mike. And another common question that I've heard a lot of times is what sort of staff resources are needed to manage a program like this. So Mike, maybe this, or sorry, Matt, this is probably one for you just based on kind of your experience with Team Rubicon, but I know when we were doing our planning for the webinar too, you were talking about ways to sort of deputize volunteers to expand the impact of this sort of program. So I wonder if you could speak to both staff and volunteer resources.
Sure. I think this is one of my favorite aspects of working with Classy is their recurring monthly revenue checkout page is so simple to set up. It takes one person maybe 30 to 60 seconds. And they have a lot of resources there that can help set up the pages, which I think makes it really easy to have a limited amount of people involved in just getting the actual campaign started. So that first year that Mike talked about, if you're a small organization, you just want to get the page up and going. It doesn't take a lot of resources. If you want to manage a much larger program, kind of like the 11/11 campaign that Team Rubicon has, it takes probably a team of 5 to 10 committed individuals. So that depends on their work capacity, of course, but you probably want to have somebody who can design custom graphics or elements that can show impact. You want to have an organizer that can write copy and post up on social media and send emails. You want to have somebody who can engage the new donors when they come in. So it kind of depends on how many donors you have coming in, but that's a great way to leverage volunteers. A few of our clients actually do just that. We take care of helping write the copy and helping create the infographics and the elements to make a successful campaign. And then once the actual campaign is going, it takes very little time to execute it, right, to put that page up. But that programmatic management in the long run is a great way to leverage volunteer resources. If you have some, you can task them out. For example, I'd like for you to write these 100 donors a thank you card for joining the monthly recurring donations. So it varies, but I would say it takes anywhere from 1 to 10 people, depending on the number of donors you have and the scope of the campaign that you want to launch.
I think just to add to that really quick, if I could, you also want to be systematic in the approach. You want to have, in some ways, it's like sales doing this. So you can really arm volunteers. So you want to give them a report or give them a spreadsheet or give them insight into your Salesforce instance, which Idealist can help you get set up, and give them an assignment of call these 50 people, and you can help them further by giving them a one sheet of things to talk about the organization. You can give them a call script. So you definitely want to have that core team in place to manage everything and create assets, but you can also leverage volunteers with minimal training to do this quite effectively for you. And it doesn't have to be every single day. It can be once a month or once a quarter, whatever's good for you. But again, it's just important to really start someplace and take a really strategic approach to the whole thing.
Great. And we are getting a few more questions about payments. So this was a follow-up, I think, to the PayPal question. Are you able to do direct bank account payments as well as credit card payments through Classy?
Not yet, but it's on the roadmap.
All right, exciting. And then we have a question about how much the recurring revenue solution kit costs. And this is a little bit dependent on organization, and it's something we're talking about with these guys, and we'll have a little more information around that for you guys when we follow up. But I think on the Idealist side, we've scoped it to be about 30 to 40 hours a week to get the initial Salesforce configuration set up. And then the Classy platform and Upraise services would be in addition to that. But we should have a little more detail on that shortly. And let's see. So we have a few more minutes, excuse me, for questions. So I'll let people keep adding to that there. But one thing that crossed my mind just when we were going through all this was kind of how to best organize your messaging. So when you use the Classy platform, for example, is there a way to integrate that with your email and social messaging so that you can kind of plan out your whole campaign and have what you're going to say to your supporter base every day?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and actually a really important one that not enough nonprofits ask. A lot of it, similar to this whole mantra of start someplace and grow, a lot of it depends on your capacity. You can get extremely robust and detailed. The important thing is that you're engaging on a regular basis and you're engaging in a very personalized way. And Team Rubicon and Matt Scott are experts in doing this. Through Classy, we offer transactional emails. So anytime somebody creates a fundraising page or makes a recurring donation, we'll send that person an email that the nonprofit can customize the copy on, and it will let them know, automatically what's going on. It's branded to the organization, it's got the key messaging in there, and it's got all the details of whatever the transaction was. Beyond that, we also offer an integration with Constant Contact and with MailChimp. So you can do some really nice engagement through there as well. We do offer some direct email capability within our platform, but if you do have access to one of those two, I would definitely recommend it. And then in addition to that, if you have the Salesforce integration set up, which is included with our services, really sky's the limit on that. You can start integrating HubSpot, Pardot, ExactTarget, vertical response, really anything that integrates with Salesforce, you'd be able to leverage with Classy as well. And using those systems, really the options box is wide open to you. You can create dynamic autoresponders that include impact information, include personalization about the individual donor or the mission. You can set up drip campaigns, which is a great thing to do if you're not familiar with that. It's basically a series of emails that person will receive automatically based on the time that they gave. So it's good for nurturing, it's good for getting them to elevate their gift over time. So really tons that you can do. I would just suggest just thinking in terms of what you guys have resource-wise and what strategies you'd like to employ, and then definitely give Matt a call because he has set all of this stuff up numerous times and is extremely good at it.
I will echo what Mike said too. I think leveraging the technology and the using the resources available within the Classy platform and within Salesforce is critical. There's actually I wrote a free blog post on our website, upraiseconsulting.com, and it's actually on writing good content for the drip campaign that Mike's talking about, and shows the results that it's pretty amazing the impact that having that drip campaign has on your campaign success. Basically breaking it down, breaking down the communication based on where the fundraisers or donors are at. And it's a really effective tool on how to customize that engagement and increase the total amount given.
Great, thank you both. So we are just about out of time, so one final question that I wanted to ask you both is if people want to do one thing today before, making any huge investments, but they want to just go back to their Salesforce instance or go back to their email platform or go back to their board or volunteers and kind of put together one ask, one simple action point, what would that be?
I would say it's really two things. If this is something you've never done before and you're just looking to dip the toe in the water, so to speak, the first thing I would do is make a list. So just pen and paper or a notepad or whatever you happen to use, just make a list of everybody you can think of that is super committed to your organization. Board, staff, volunteers, your friends, your family, your staff's friends, your staff's family, volunteers. Make a list of everybody who's likely to get involved with something like this, and then start giving those people a call and just having some conversations. Ask about how they feel about your organization. Ask how, if they would like to get more involved, how they would like to do so. Would they consider making this type of a gift? And definitely frame it as, listen, we all work really closely together. We have a similar vision for the world, similar vision for our mission and what we want to change. Have the conversation that a recurring donation, just generally, whether they give it or not, is a really strong investment in that vision, in that shared work, and ask what they'd want in terms of accountability back from you guys. So the updates, things like that. Just have those conversations, and then I think you gather that data, you go back and make the ask later on this week or next week or at the end of the month or whatever it is. But if you've given them the opportunity to give their buy-in ahead of time, they're 1,000 times more likely to just drop the money and activate the gift when it comes time to make the call to action.
Yeah, I guess if I were going to do one thing, I would, very similar to what Mike described, is go back and take a look at and just assess what does your current donor look like, what are your donor profiles, what tools and resources do you have available to you today, and ask the question of how can we integrate a recurring revenue program into our annual campaign strategy and our campaign calendar, and then check out some of the resources out there of some really successful recurring revenue programs that are going on. And I guess also just really reflecting on how simple it can be to get started. Like Mike pointed out, it doesn't have to be an incredibly complicated system or campaign that you're doing. It's something that you can grow year over year in the program. And the easiest conversation to have is on year 2, when you can take to your decision maker and say, look at the direct impact that we've had and quantify the reduced churn and the increased average monthly donation and the movement away from peaks and valleys. I think just kind of beginning to frame your mindset for preparing for that conversation and understanding what elements will make you successful.
All right, and it is the top of the hour on the dot. So I think that's a sign that we're going to call it a wrap for today. So I want to thank our presenters, Mike and Matt, so much for joining today. This was really educational, and we'll be providing follow-up resources to everyone here, as well as any of your colleagues that might have registered and weren't able to attend. And we'll get the recording out to you within the week as well. So thanks again, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.